Hope everybody's having a good day. First and foremost, happy Mother's Day to all the beautiful mothers out there, all the single, hardworking mothers, all the mothers that's holding down the household while the man goes out into work. Just all the mothers out there that's actually responsible, that's helpful, that's loving, that's caring, and they're doing what they have to do to take care of their children. Happy Mother's Day to all the stepmothers, the people that step up in situations where the mother's not there and where things are a little tricky and them type of families. Shouts out to the stepmothers. Just shouts out to everybody that's out there taking care of these children and trying to put these children in better positions than they was as they was younger. Now we here. Let's get to it. I am here today to talk about Sue Surf, talking about the Joe Budden podcast and how everything's going with that. And we're gonna talk about a little bit of everything because it's all like, if you're paying attention, all this stuff is intertwined. Everything that's happening has to do with each other. So Sue Surf is supposed to be taking a little break after this Cortez battle. But it's not looking like he's taking a break because last night, if you're seeing some of the, I uploaded some content. So Surf was live after the battles in the Twitter Spaces, and he was talking about certain matchups, things that he wants to do in battle rap. But before this Cortez battle, he was saying how, you know, he was supposed to be taking a break because of the Joe Budden podcast and how he's a new fit on there. If you're paying attention, the Joe Budden podcast is going through some rocky and some turmoil situations, man. It's getting a little crazy for the JBP. So I'm a big fan of the Joe Budden podcast. I've been listening to it from the very start. So you had Peter Rosenberg and Marissa up there. It was Peter Rosenberg, Marissa. They brought in Rory, I think like the second or third episode, and it was Joe. So that's how it started. And then things fell out. Joe fired Peter, and then Marissa got fired, and then Maul came in about episode 72. And things started to change for the JBP from there. Like, the dynamic of them three is what really solidified the Joe Budden podcast. And then you had Pox in the background just chiming in and talking about certain things, And then we have the big blow up that happened last year with Rory and Maul and Joe or whatever around it happened around the beginning of the year, and come to find out a lot of it had to do with like the academic situation, Joe not taking that Spotify deal, and just things like that. Like, it was pretty much an implosion of the Joe Budden podcast with the guys. So Rory and Maul, they do their separate thing, they go separate, and it's been like kind of like a war ever since then. But Joe Budden brings in Ice and Ish. Ice and Ish are Joe Budden's long-term friends, and they're good accommodations to the podcast. Like, if you really want to be real, we're gonna be real quick. Ever since Rory and Maul left the podcast, actually, it's been like it's kind of had a stronger return as far as like content, tougher topics, deeper conversation, and things of that nature because you have Ice and Ish is like, he's very argumentative. So anything Joe says, if he doesn't agree with it, it turns into a debate. And that's what podcasts are about. So like it's been pretty good. The podcast has been fire. I've been listening to it. I got the Patreon, so they have the exclusive content on Patreon. And that's what really been keeping them afloat. Is like all the exclusive content and things like that because now that Joe Budden's independent, it's like, he has to do everything on his own. There's no network, there's no Spotify or nothing like that that's backing him. And then you have situations where people are actually, I don't know if it's a smear campaign or what, or they're slandering him, but you just have these situations where his exes come up and he talk about his past, or Joe Budden speaks on something that he's not necessarily supposed to speak on because, in this climate, people look at you a certain way when you go through things, and if you speak on something, it's like, who are you to speak on this because like you done this, so you can't. It's like the pot calling the kettle black type thing. So like you have a lot of situations pop up, and I don't know if you guys are on Twitter. Ish has some certain situations popping up, and he's a very close, like he's closed. He doesn't really open up as far as his personal life like Joe does. So like you wouldn't really you wouldn't expect the situation that's going on to be going on because of the standards and the morals that Ish upholds on the podcast. But then again, it's he say, she say, so you don't even really know what's going on. But he has some problems with his child's mom, and she's on Twitter. She's on a crazy rant on Twitter. And that comes to the Joe Budden tour being canceled. They were supposed to go on a little tour, a little run, and it was supposed to be Sue Surf, Joe Budden, Parks, Ice and Ish. You know, the whole crew that was supposed to go on tour. I guess it was Houston, the Bay, a couple other places. But Rory actually dropped a spoiler. He was the one that was saying the tour was canceled before Joe even announced anything. And then, you know, next thing you know, here we go. We got Joe on a podcast, the last pod, yesterday's pod, saying that he had to cancel the tour because he wants to do things a little different and things like that. But if you've been paying attention the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot going on as far as like Tahiri coming out and speaking out on their situation, just Joe being dragged through the mud for like his past and things that he did. So it's like, yo, I don't know. And that brings us to Sue Surf. So Sue Surf was supposed to be taking a break, honestly. He said he was gonna be taking a break after this Cortez battle. But now that the podcast tour is canceled, he wasn't on no recent episodes. I don't know what they're gonna be doing as far as that. He's been talking about taking different matches and different battles and all that. So we're gonna see Sue Surf way sooner than later, just because he's back in battle rap. He doesn't have like, I don't want to say he doesn't have that Joe Budden podcast net now, because of course he's probably still gonna be doing the podcast. They just dropped an episode last week with him on it. It was like him guest starring on an episode. He's been guest starring on a lot of the Patreon episodes and things like that. But he's saying he's back. Last night he went on the Twitter Spaces after his battle with Cortez, and he was talking about certain battles that he wants to take, and he's planning out like pretty much a good run. He's talking about JC, Vixen, and Daylight. Number 3 names that he was talking about and saying that he wants to take: JC, Vixen, and Daylight. That's kind of crazy. Like, honestly, if you think about it, if he makes another Champion of the Year run, he'll probably win it this year if he does take JC, Daylight, and Vixen, and he could get through them 3 battles. But my whole thing is like, what happened to the break? What happened? What was gonna go on? I just want to know what's going on with the JBP and how it's trickling down and how it's affecting Sue Surf, because you don't see things like this. Like, a lot of people, you hear a lot about it. Well, actually, I'm lying. I'm wrong. You do see things like this. Like, Arsenal said that he was going to retire a couple times, and then he came back. And then, you know, you see Mook and all these other people saying, oh, I'm retired, I'm this, I'm that. And then next thing you know, they're headlining on the card. But there was plans in order. Like, they literally had a tour set. So, and then Rory, that's another thing. Like, this beef between Rory and Joe is kind of weird, because it's like reports were saying that they was hanging out together. They had like a little meeting or whatever, and then you hear Rory on their podcast, the Rory and Maul Show, you know, kind of sneak this in. Like, he said it last week too. He was like, oh, someone got to cancel a tour, da, da, da. And it's like, yo, what the hell is going on? So I don't know. It's a lot of internal beef, a lot of internal situations, a lot of crazy stuff. I just want to see. I want to see how this folds out. I want to see what they're going to do with Surf as far as the podcast, because he is a great addition. Adding Sue Surf to the podcast was great because of the topics. Like, he brings the craziest topics, but then he talks. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows how to debate. He's very argumentative, and he knows how to capitalize on whatever, you know. He knows how to work the camera. He's a very good, I wouldn't say actor, but he's a good entertainer. So he knows all that type of stuff, and you know, it plays a good part on a podcast. So I don't know, man. It's getting a little crazy. It's getting a little crazy. I want to know. I want to know what's his next moves, what he's gonna do, who's his next taking, because Daylight was saying that he already signed a contract for Surf. If Daylight already signed a contract for Surf, then I don't know. That would probably be a pretty fire battle, but Daylight's supposed to be taking. He has to see Lux and Nitty first. If Daylight, man, he has to see Lux and Nitty before he sees Surf on a rematch. Because if you remember, they did have a battle. I think it was Snoop Dogg did a league back in the day. It was kind of the battles on YouTube, and it's very animated. It's crazy. Surf was cooking in that battle, but like the way they shot the battle and the animations and the sound effects, I don't know, it took so much away from that battle. It would have been a pretty decent, pretty fire battle if there wasn't all that extra like Coliseum and lions, and like it was crazy. You guys gotta go. If you didn't see that battle, make sure you go check out the first Sue Surf versus Daylight battle. It's on YouTube. I think it was Snoop Dogg's league or something like that. But yeah, like I was saying, Daylight definitely has to take. He has to take Lux. He has to take Nitty. I would rather see Daylight battle Geechee. Geechee's the face of the West. Daylight is on the West, so I would rather see Daylight battle Geechee before I see him battle Surf. Honestly. Who else? There's a couple battles Daylight has to take. He talks about how high level he is, his writing skill, his craft, how he's not on the same planet as everybody else, but he doesn't really show and prove. Like honestly, like Daylight battles once every like 2-3 years now. Like the beginning of his career, he was very active, but he was active with antics. So it's like, bro, like I don't know. His last battle with Rock, that's a certified classic. Daylight versus Rock is a classic for sure. But he has to, like, I don't know, he still has to prove himself, especially in the URL. He doesn't have that many URL battles. And it was because, I guess, the situation with him and everything that went on. And he went crazy because he didn't get the battle. And he threw smack. He won his $500. That's also on YouTube too. Like there's so much battle rap history and funny shit that's on YouTube that I just love to go back and watch. Like especially Daylight shit. Daylight Vlad interviews are so funny, so crazy. Let me know though, would you guys want to see Daylight versus Surf first, or would you want to see Daylight versus someone else? And what do you think's happening with like this whole Joe Budden podcast, Sue Surf, like this whole situation? Cause Surf was talking so spicy yesterday, so spicy last night on in the Twitter Spaces, calling people out, speaking on his resume, speaking on his tear, his status, what he does, and he was breaking down the battle with him and Cortez and how he like. He also said yesterday that he buried his grandfather yesterday morning. So big condolences to Sue Surf and his family. I mean, not his grandfather, his uncle. I'm sorry, I don't want to put that on nobody. He buried his uncle yesterday. So big condolences to Sue Surf, his family, and everything he got going on. And for him to still show up and put on the performance that he did, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of fire too. So that just shows you where he's at right now as far as work ethic and trying to solidify himself. So I honestly wouldn't doubt Surf beating Daylight again. That would actually, I wouldn't doubt that. I'm not gonna doubt Surf no more as far as his talent, his ability, and showing up, because he's showed and proved when he wants to take it serious, he can take it serious and do what he has to do to get the win. Another thing too about this Joe Budden thing, man, he puts himself in these crazy situations because of his rep and how he doesn't how he bucks the system. Like the podcast itself is worth more than it actually is probably making right now. And that's because they don't have the big backing. Like you see DJ Academics. Academics is doing everything right now. Like, and he's a free contractor, so he has a show on Spotify. He's still working on YouTube. He does his post on Twitter and Instagram with the new artists and things of that nature. And he's able to do that stuff because he doesn't necessarily go against companies, or he doesn't he doesn't show the resilience that Joe shows when it comes to business, and when it comes to Joe's like a shrewd, honestly. He's like a business shrewd when it comes to like certain things. And he stands on what he stands on, and he's gonna come and he's gonna speak on what he wants to speak on. So it makes it hard for them to actually be able to execute some things and probably get these certain relationships and build these relationships and try to build this network, because people are probably scared to work with Joe, honestly. Because you got to think, to back out of a tour like that, you know, you're losing money. But that's another thing he said. He was like, he tried to pinpoint the fact that, like, yo, it's good that I don't have to depend on touring. Like, you know, I don't have to depend on actually being able to tour, and I don't have to wait for me being able to tour to actually get an income, because I have this certain the way I have my network set up. But touring is a big part of branding and the operation, especially if you really want to touch the people. If you really want to touch the people, touring's a big part and a big key of marketing and branding, because you got to be able to go out there, touch the people, and just show your personal side. A lot of people fall in love with entertainers. Well, fall in love with entertainers because they show a vulnerability. Like, a lot of people have Drake in their tops and still don't believe that he's the best rapper, because of how his accessibility. He's accessible, but he's not accessible. He shows a different side and things of that nature. So, you know, you got to be able to tour. You got to be able to just execute your plan. And it's not working for Joe because of certain things and everything that they got going on. So I don't know, man. Big shouts out to Sue Surf. Big shouts out to Joe Budden. Big shouts out to everybody involved in the JBP. They actually been cooking lately. That's the sad part too, because the Joe Budden podcast has gotten so much better as far as like content wise, as far as like topics, and just being able to talk about certain things. But people don't want to hear you talk about certain things when you went through these certain things. So it's like, it's a tricky situation. It's a slippery slope. You can only talk about so much, and you can only speak on so much, and put yourself in these positions when certain people hate you. It's not, you got to figure out if it's worth it. Like the Meg topic, that's one of the topics that actually sent like people in an uproar, as far as like the situations that they have going on right now. Joe being open and honest, and the guys being open and honest on the Meg Thee Stallion topic. And people couldn't take, a lot of people can't take honesty, and a lot of people hate honesty. They don't want to hear, certain things, because then that makes them believe like, oh, this person is lying, that person is lying, no, I can't believe this, I can't believe that. And then some people just have certain things already made up in their minds. So it's like, yo, I don't know, it's hard, especially being like an entertainer. Even vlogging, you have to like watch your words. You have to watch certain things you say, because like, even like the twerk situation, I'll bring up the twerk situation. Twerk has me blocked right now, and I don't know, it's because I said he lost. And maybe it was the way I said he lost or something like that, but it's just like, yo, like, certain people feel a certain way about their craft, and they feel a certain way about how you say things and you deliver them messages. So it's not necessarily it's how you deliver the message. People don't like the messenger or how the message is delivered. They'll pay attention. I don't know. But big shouts out to Joe. Big shouts out to Sue Surf. I'm just ranting and rambling right now. I'm chilling. About to go do some stuff for Mother's Day. I gotta go get some, gotta go shopping. Gotta make a couple moves, then I'm gonna come home, cook dinner, relax. Probably go live later on and see what's going on Twitter. I'm gonna go listen to that Sue Surf and Cortez battle again and just take it easy. Hope you guys are celebrating. Hope you guys are healthy, happy. I hope everybody's out there safe right now. Make sure you guys do what you have to do to be prosperous, healthy, happy, focused, and get your goals. Get your goals in order. Be goal-oriented and achieve them goals. You know what I'm saying? This is your boy Joe Cliff, and we are out.